right, Doreen, we are going to do this. All right, so here we go.
We'll
So
do it.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. I am very excited today to talk to Doreen Hills. Doreen, welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right. So Doreen is a founder and director at Center for Healing Trauma and Attachment. Their mission is to provide cutting-edge treatment approaches in healing traumatic stress. They're committed to finding ways to provide quality and affordable therapy and to be the pioneer in healing trauma in the Northeast region. And you guys are located where specifically, Doreen?
We're located in Colorado.
Okay. Doreen has been a mental health provider for over 20 years, and she's worked in various mental health settings in New York, Philippines, and Colorado. Before becoming a mental health provider, she worked at the Salvation Army Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Program as residential manager, case manager, and rape crisis advocate. Doreen has conducted and facilitated trainings, workshops, and presentations in Morgan County and neighboring Northeast counties in Colorado on topics of attachment, trauma, neuroscience, among others. Doreen, welcome.
Thank you so much. This is such a pleasure to be part of this and to be with a tribe of wonderful clinicians that will be hopefully, be able to hear what I can share here.
Oh, they will hear. There's no doubt about that. So before we get going here, where are you from originally, and where are you currently?
Yes, so I came from the Philippines, and I did my college there. Actually, it's not called psychology, it's called behavioral science. And I was there. I've met my husband, who's a New Yorker, and believe it or not, this is another story, right? We were pen pals. We were pen pals, and we spent some time in the Philippines, and then I came here through a student visa. I already finished my bachelor's degree in the Philippines, and I wanted to pursue my master's in psychology, clinical counseling, and I came to New York and pursued that. But I wanted to share, my journey regarding, how did I get here, and even in late teens, I'm not a nonprofit. I don't have a degree in nonprofit management. But when I was in the Philippines, I've experienced what we call political collective trauma. I've experienced and I've witnessed martial law. And this was during the Marcos regime, where the military was actually in control of the country. It was very scary, Guy. Very, very scary. When I was little, I saw that. And I think my exposure led me to understand and believe that we have to do something to take care of our people. I did not know I was going to go to therapy that time. But over the years, I had that sense of passion of caring for people. And that's where I went to counseling, behavioral science. And that time I was exposed to so many immersion programs in our college. And I worked with the poverty-stricken fishermen. We spent time there. We spent months there working with them.
Let me just interject, if I may. So sure. For those who aren't familiar, and I want to be careful here, I'm not asking you to recall everything that happened, but martial law, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the government, the military, as you said, wielding their power to enforce law, to enforce governmental restrictions and so forth. And you're saying you witnessed that.
I did witness that.
Okay.
And to just kind of share a little bit of that, when I was 7 years old, I remember my father did not come home. And, he was just, coming from home, work to home. And we found out there was no phone. We were not rich. We did not have any phone that time. That, my mother was going crazy because her husband's not home and he was stranded. He actually was locked in a jail. And he had to stay there because he did not meet the curfew. The curfew that time was about 7 p.m. Well, who would have a curfew that time? People are leaving their work. Right. And so, and there were so many things that we were close to the mountains. We lived close to the mountains and we could hear, when I was growing up, we could hear gunshots. Gunshots that night. And it's that the power, the military took pretty much take over the democracy and the independence of a country. It's kind of like cleansing. We felt like we were so isolated. And so I've experienced that, I've witnessed that, and it was very stressful to now, in a way, that pandemic that we're dealing with, that's triggering me, because it kind of like you go back in time and you've seen something happen, and then is this going to turn into something like this? I think we all experience trauma, and there are some moments of triggering moments, and the pandemic is actually for quite some time triggered me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So continue on here. So you were brought up in this environment, and you said that you did begin therapy at a particular point? Did you start therapy as a young woman?
Not for me.
Okay.
Not for me, but I practice. We've done a lot of immersion work in the Philippines through my college, and I work with poverty-stricken fishermen. I also work with orphanages. I also work with with the Muslim population in Manila. Manila is the biggest city, the capital of the Philippines. And I actually stayed with them for 6 months. I would go and, we call it immersion program. And we work with them. I work with them for 6 months. I go there every weekend. Oh. And it's so intense and so powerful because I could see the firsthand experience of these people. I could see an example. I'll kind of, we're so used in the Western world to see, counseling office, right? You have a chair, you have a sofa. When I was working with the orphanage, it was, I call it the curbside, or the curbside therapy. We sit our butts on the curb and we just talk. And that night, just recalling it now, that night, these kids, you will connect with them, you will work with them, play with them, but at the end of the day, at nighttime, they sell their bodies. Wow. It's very intense. And I think that's what I held on, Guy. I held on so much to where, okay, what can I do in my own, in my own way? What can I do to serve people? People that never experience or will not be able to have access to therapy, like, maybe the middle class or the upper class. And I think that's the fuel, that's the torch that I carried even when I came here to the US.
When you, at what point, Doreen, did you say to yourself, I want to do this? I want to go and study, in your case, behavioral sciences and so forth. And I realized there's never like one point, sure. but were you consciously aware of the witnessing of the trauma that you did experience? Was that something that propelled you, or was it just an unconscious pull?
I think it's intentional. When you were a kid, you could not say it, right? You cannot verbalize it yet. But I think it was intentional for me. it's like you're seeing it, there's symbols, there's signs, and next thing you know, it begins to physicalize, it begins to make sense. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I wanted to do. And so I can say that I started to have this, maybe more of that passion. Well, I guess that's what we call it. Yeah, the passion, like that blooming passion, right? When I was in elementary years.
Wow.
You never expect, like, kids play, kids, they do stupid stuff, they go crazy, like just playing stuff. But in your mind, when you've experienced something like that at a very young age, it changed the way you look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you remember the past, but in my mind, I think I move on the future. What can I do differently? Is there a way that I can do something to help others?
So what did you do? What did you do? When you asked yourself that question, what did you do? Did you start studying this in school? Walk us through that journey.
When I was in college, they tell me, my mom told me that I would actually study. Now, there's a lot of brownouts, there's a lot of blackouts in our community. People will just shut down the electricity to the point where you have to use candle to study. I would study and study and study, even when the only thing that's left, the only brightness I have is that little candle. And I would do that. And my mom would tell me, you get so tired that you don't even have time or energy to go to bed. I lay on the floor. My husband told me, when he was courting me, I remember seeing you laying on the floor with your book there. I said, who would do that? I said, I would. And I study, I work so hard. I think it's like blood and sweat for me. I know it's probably an exaggeration, but I work hard. I study hard to know, again, in my mind, what can I do? What can I do differently? How can I help people heal?
Mm.
And so, yes, I think I work my butt off, to be where I'm at. And I am possessive of this, Guy. I am so possessive of this. I love I love it so much to where CARA, the trauma center, is something so valuable for me that it's not only about the present, it has something, it's tied to what I've done, what I've experienced, what I was rooted on when I was little.
You're saying CARA as the
trauma center.
Center for Healing, Trauma, and Attachment.
Yes.
When did you start that? Why did you start? I mean, people can look, you are incredible. I mean, you can hear and the passion that you have. We're doing this on video, and when this gets published, people can watch the video. You can see the passion that you have. At what point did you say, I want to start CARA?
So this has been on, CARA's been in my mind. I did not know the name of it yet. I started, the inception of it is August 2015. But before that, I was a private practitioner. But there's something missing in me. There's something off, and there's something missing. 98%, no, I'm wrong there. Sorry, 99% of my caseload when I was a private practitioner was complex trauma. I work with complex trauma. I work with reactive attachment disruption, toddlers to age onward. And I told myself, again, here's that curiosity again. Here you go again, Doreen. There's something brewing in your mind. I started CARA because I do believe that trauma therapy and trauma healing is more than counseling. Now, it has something to do again with my history. in the Philippines, again, counseling was only for the people that have money. It's not for the underserved. People that need help, that need trauma healing in the Philippines use indigenous type of approaches. They do, we can call it shaman now. You know, we do that, the dancing, the hymn, the rhythm, all those kinds of stuff. That's what people use. And so when I started to be curious, my mind is, probably tickling. My mind is getting tickled again, that I decided I wanted CARA to not only be counseling, to not only be mental health counselors playing the part here. It has to be, we have to give access to the adjunct services in the area, which we already have anyway. Yoga, art, and I'm not talking about just art therapy. We're talking about quilts. We're talking about crafting. We're talking about massage. We're talking about physical therapy and music, already accessible in the area, because we don't have anything here.
Are you talking about, where are you talking about? The Philippines or in the States at this point?
In the States.
Okay.
Yeah. And so bringing in the indigenous and non-traditional services is what, not only counseling, but that's what's driving me to continue this mission. And we're still here. We're still here. Nonprofit is not an easy task for me. I'm not a nonprofit manager. That's not my trade. But, and again, there's that passion of, yes, I've done clinical work, because even though when I was still young, that's really what I wanted to do. But I think it's taking me where I'm not comfortable. And again, that's that nonprofit. I'm not comfortable with that.
Say more about that.
I don't know how to do grants. I don't know about what board of director means. What is it? What is board of directors? What is grant writing? What is budgeting for a nonprofit? What is becoming, an administrator? But at the end, I realized when about 2016, because I was fighting inside. I said, why do I need to have that? I can just go ahead and do it. That's when I realized, kind of like a punch in the gut moment for me, that Doreen, you still need to learn this in order to provide services, in order for you to continue this mission. And I have to ask for help. I have to ask for help.
So that designation of nonprofit would allow you to treat the underserved?
Yes.
And provide treatment to people who otherwise would have difficulty on a challenging time affording it.
Yes.
And same, you know what? Can you hold on a second? I got to put on a sweater. I'm a little cold. Hold on a second.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. I might cut this out. I might not.
Why?
But, okay, here we go.
Cool.
So why was it so important for you to bring in the indigenous modalities or treatments, etc.?
I think I'm going back to my roots. And I do believe that trauma treatment is not a one-size-fits-all. Bessel van der Kolk said that. And I, being trained under Bruce Perry speaks a lot about it. That it's not only counseling that is the engine to help people. There's so many of these non-traditional that I think it is becoming more comfortable now in the Western world, but before it wasn't. That we need to bring this stuff because we are working with the body. We're working with energy. We're working with not only the body, but also activating creativity again, imagination, because we all know that trauma freezes someone in time. Trauma rip someone, take someone out of that creative mind, which I've experienced growing up.
Mhm.
I was bombarded with fear. I was bombarded with fear. I was scared. Even when you're playing on the playground, you would, is there going to be an army that's going to, or a soldier that's going to take me away from my home? And so I think we need to look at trauma treatment as not only collaborative, but also multidisciplinary, that anyone in a trauma-informed care lens, anyone, you can be a strong person, a component of treatment, treating trauma. So I'm opening this to other providers other than mental health counselors.
When you started seeing clients, what was that like for you, having had your own experience that you talked about that was traumatic with martial law and so forth? When you first started seeing clients, even though there was that passion to do so, what was it like for you? Wow, did it just come effortlessly? Were there certain challenges or bumps in the road for yourself? What was it like for you?
I have these passion, but that time I was such a young clinician. There's a lot of rough edges in me. And believe me, I've done so many mistakes, so many errors. I really did. Some of them, you look back, you learn from it, and you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, you cringe. It feels like, holy cow.
Can we pick one?
Oh my goodness. This is actually for, this is interesting. This is one thing that I will always remember. I was a very excited, very passionate counselor when I was young. Well, I'm still is. I was very passionate, very excited all the time. My voice was high. I was excited. I was happy and just smiling. And I realized when you're working with complex trauma, that can be quite dysregulating for them. That can be quite triggering for them. I had one client that fired me because of that. And that was that cringing, punch in the gut moment. Mm-hmm. She's so excited. She's too much. She's too much for me. And that's the feedback I got from the supervisor. And I've learned that I need to follow them. I need to follow their energy. I need to follow their energy, their flow. And I remember I followed that rule. I remember I had this young man and he was slouched. His presentation was flat. It was flat. Came in my office, kind of very slouchy, sagged on the sofa. And I remember telling myself, I gotta follow him. I gotta follow the energy. And I did. I actually learned from it. And I told him, would you like to take a walk with me? Because I could feel that if we just sit here together and you're feeling this way, that may not be too helpful for you. So we walked and walked and walked. And I stand with him, beside him, not in front of him. I stand beside him. And it became to the point where he started talking to me. And it actually became playful because I told him, you are tall and I am short. I have small steps. Can you kind of follow me here? Can you help me? Can you help me, follow your steps? And he chuckled and it was funny. So we did walk many blocks.
That is awesome. I mean, I could see you being very, I mean, you're an excited person when you get talking about this. And that's such an incredible learning point that you shared there. What or who does Kata treat? Who are your people?
We treat, again, as what I said, we treat children. We treat children, toddlers moving forward. Anyone that experienced complex trauma, abuse, neglect, disaster, grief, loss. So you name it, anyone that experienced some type of, like political trauma, we cover a whole lot, like an umbrella, pretty much.
Let me just remind everyone that I'm speaking with Doreen Hills, founder of the Center for Healing, Trauma, and Attachment. The website is chtainc.org. I'll have that listed here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. I love talking to you. I mean, you are what this podcast is about. I mean, come on, this is who you are.
You're going to make me cry, guy.
I'm telling you, this is why I'm doing this, because I get to speak with people like you. I mean, this is you. This is your life.
It is.
People who are just so incredible, and they're helping people who've been impacted by trauma. I mean, how friggin' incredible is that? It's so inspiring. People are going to hear this and they're driving to work, wherever, and they're going to hear you. And it's really what this podcast is about.
It's amazing. And you said that, being able to heal people. I gotta share with you something, and this is probably gonna make me cry. It always does. It gives me the chills, and it tears me up big time. I remember, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I know it's a lot of work. I get burned out, I get vicarious trauma, all that stuff, right? But when I think about this story, two stories actually, very short. One is a 7-year-old that I treated back in New York. And we were playing Jenga. That was his last session with me. And I asked him, so what did you learn? What did you like about coming to see Miss Doreen? This is our last session. You did really well. And he looked at me and he told me, I will never give up. I will never give up. And I had this young lady that I treated for a while. It's complex trauma, painful. And she told me, I was dead. She said, I was dead for so many years and I'm alive again. I mean, when you hear people telling you those stories,
yeah,
you just want to keep going. You just want to keep going. You just wanted to continue to answer your whys. Why are you doing this? And that's my torch. That's why I keep doing this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. I mean, that's it. I mean, those are so moving and they're so profound. And when you hear a story like that, I mean, what else is there?
What else is there?
I mean, excuse me, a 7-year-old to say, I will never give up. I mean, Jesus, come on.
Became a core of his, that's the core belief. I will never give up. He can bring it. He can take it anywhere.
Right.
And for someone to say that I was dead and I'm alive again. Wow. We know and we believe that trauma can be healed. That's why we do what we do.
let's, as we kind of wind up here, and I want to ask you about any kind of go-to book recommendations, and whether it's trauma related or not. Share with us something that's, maybe inspiring you or whatever. What would you have?
So I do have three that I would love to share with everyone. In fact, I'm in my office. I'm going to show this to you. This is the first one, which is called Treating Adult Survivors of Childhood Emotional Abuse and Neglect. Powerful, 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 powerful. This is something that I do believe clinicians need to have in their library, and be this the first book to read, component-based psychotherapy. The second one is that Trauma and Recovery by Judith Herman.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful, very humbling and intense book about trauma, healing, and recovery. And the third one, which has been helpful for me as I continually to navigate and screw up and mess up and have a little bit of success in nonprofit, is Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last.
Mm-hmm.
This is a beautiful way of doing service leadership, a serving leadership. Those are the three books that are my go-tos.
Awesome. And I'll have those linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Doreen, look, like I said, come on. I get to talk. You're incredible. Seriously, you're so friggin' inspiring to me. This is why I do this. This is why I do it. I got to have you back. Love to have you back. This will go out, like I said, in a month and a half, but I love to have you back on the podcast. And, in the new year, we can talk about other things we can talk about, but it's just so inspiring to talk to you, because this is what you do. And you, to hear you talk about treating the people you work with is amazing. It's really amazing. It's just so, I'm glad there are people like you out there.
Well, I am glad to have people like you to be able to spread this, because this is a thankless world. This is not world, but this is a thankless profession. And oftentimes we don't hear that a lot.
Right.
But I wanted to share with you how thankful I am that you're doing this, not only for me, being able to share stories, right? Trauma can be healed by stories. And being able to share this with the people, our tribe.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Where can people contact you? What's the best way?
Oh, yes. So it's easy peasy. They can connect with me at www.chtainc.org, or they can also email me at all lowercase Doreen, DOREEN _Hills @yahoo.com. And they can, do you want me to give you my phone number?
No.
Okay.
No,
I think that's fine.
That's enough. People don't need it. People don't need your phone number. All right, Doreen, awesome, man. We're going to talk again. All right. Thank you so much.
I would love that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.